Hi, Self-Awareness, Whose Truth? I am your host, Rose, and I have a very special guest today. And I met him maybe 6 months ago at the Poetry Club in Manhattan, and he is amazing. So now I'm going to turn it over to him. He's going to introduce himself and tell you some background on his whole experience. Thank you.
How you doing, everybody? My name is God's Child. I'm a spoken word artist. Signed to Salvation Cafe Records. And I've been a spoken word poet for about 7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, what inspired you to get into this field?
Mm-hmm. Well, I started off doing spoken word poetry from a high school competition, actually.
Okay.
And then from there, I went on to, joining the poetry club at school, doing stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started going to, different poetry spots, started slamming. And 3 years ago, I got signed to Salvation Cafe Records, and which is an independent Christian label out in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, really started doing gigs and, performed Juneteenth at City Hall, the Apollo, SOBs, open for Ryan Leslie, open for Christian, the Christian rapper, The Truth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been a great ride, and going into it, I didn't really think that it would be as big as it is right now. But yeah, it's been fun.
And it's going to get bigger.
Yeah.
Well, could you just elaborate on your background?
Mm-hmm.
I think you say you was from Haiti,
Mm-hmm.
and that experience growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was very profound.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was born in Brooklyn and moved to Miami when I was
Mm-hmm.
about 4. And, being Haitian, during my childhood years was really kind of like the catalyst of me being, conscious or, aware of, my culture and society, because it was a bad thing to be Haitian at that time. I got made fun of a lot. And I was in a predominantly Spanish community, so I was always aware of the fact that I'm black, but never really felt too accepted by any group because I was Haitian. So then that, at a very early age, made me really question what was culture and what is race, and what it is in a societal aspect, but also what does it mean for me as an individual. So I think those big questions about society and culture is really what kind of helped shape my worldview perspective that I speak about now in my poetry.
Okay, well, I think because when I first heard you, the passion in your spoken words, and it was just, I said, I have to have him on my show. But can you share with us, why did you choose that name, God's Child? How did that come about? I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting though, because my first poetry name was Panther.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of people back then, when I first started off 7 years ago, knew me as Panther.
Okay.
And around the time that I became, I started, getting more serious about God and my walk, with Christ, began to really formulate. I just felt, there's some things where you just feel inside of you. You know what I mean? Like when God speaks to you, and I really felt like I was moving away from Panther.
Okay.
Because Panther seemed very focused and very kind of narrow. It was about you know, the black experience and the black people and all of that. And I really felt like God was showing me the bigger picture, you know, that the black experience is essentially an American experience.
Thank you.
So because, you know, the focus of my poetry was becoming broader, it gave me a chance to take a step back and really ask myself, who am I? You know, who are you as a man, as a black man, and as a poet? And I really felt like God just chose that name for me.
Okay.
It's not even a name. I didn't even necessarily, I mean, it sounds crazy, but, you know, it's one of them things where you just feel, you know, you just feel something.
Yeah.
And I felt it, God's child. And I'm like, God's child? That sounds so cliche. And so, like, everybody calls themselves God's child. But, you know, 6 years later, I'm really beginning to see why God gave me that name. And it's becoming more evident every day. So, yeah, that's where it came from.
Okay, I think at this time we want to hear some of your work, and we're going to listen to Slave Mind.
Slave Mind.
Which is very powerful and deep. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So.
Crib. Crib. Blood spill stains a history of innocent bloodshed being shed to fulfill all are created equal. And I sit back and watch a whole group of people go from being black to being see-through, seeing through Bloods and Crips, reminiscent of chains and whips. Used to be forced slavery, now we choose slavery in the form of chains and whips, jeans and kicks, thugs and chicks, girls getting their identities found through their thighs and hips. But if your eyes and lips can see and taste them into cotton we picking, then you, like I would see, we're conditionally sick. Brothers is shooting their own kind because they can't stand to see the image in a mirror. A self-hatred overflows from inside of them because instead of a father, they had a sperm donor who never delivered. But listen, get the picture. Your life is being the negative fulfillment of the scriptures. You are a slave to the master you obey. So when you bust shots at another brother you slay, were you just being a slave and the victim to the system you say you hate? Eating crumbs from the plate. The time is now, but you late. What they don't teach us in school is that we made slaves out of ourselves before the Europeans ever got there, creating systems of exploitation that raises one and brings down the other, a system of cycles that we continue even till today, mixing beats with words of ignorance, foolish hip-hop, music with no significance. So as Fiddler plays for Massa with a diamond chained around his neck, Kunta bobs his soul as a self-form of disrespect. The others kill each other like Bloods killing Crips while they still Crip stepping. They think they reppin' they set when in truth it's Willie Lynch they reppin'. I once heard a wise man say, I hate ignorance, so call me a nigger hater. But we have masqueraded and degraded ourselves to the point where we've become the slave master's duplicator, forsaking the freedom of he who told us to wait by the water and said we wait for the cheddar. Listen, Master taught us so well that when it comes to enslaving black people, we now do it better. Somebody quick,
called Tubman. We need a new underground railroad. But what they don't know is Jesus Christ paved the road, derailed our walk towards hell, died for us, then rose. Can't we see? My people, are we blind to see that we are living in a time in history where the teachings of self-hatred and slavery are evident in the tragic losses of own kind, killing own kind? The smell of death through slavery is no longer something we reminisce, but it is ever more present, for we have chosen to bear the stench. So what say you, my brothers? What say you, my sisters? Shall we continue making slave posts out of our homes, the streets, and the booth, creating today's version of the triangle slave trade, multiplying times 2 our previous 400 years? Or would we rather not believe the good book when it says, whoever the Son sets free is free indeed? Yes, it is true. A sad story we live, with pain like no other, for we were stolen from our homes, far away from our mothers. See, but the smartest thing they ever did was they taught us how to hate each other. They taught, but now we teach. But there is still a freedom in God that is yet to be reached. So I got a message for the gangsters, a message for the rappers, a message to the women indulging in their physical, neglecting their true beauty. For too long has ignorance been the cause that has enslaved both you and me. But let us instead become slaves to God's truth, and God's truth shall set us free.
Hi, thank you. I know you enjoyed that. But now we want him to elaborate on such a powerful spoken word. I mean, how did you just came up with all of that? And just, it hit home.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And I know it's true because I have been talking to many people, special people of color, black, melanin, whatever name they want to put with it. The problem is not the white race.
Right.
It's us now.
Right.
We're hating each other.
Right.
And I would like for you to elaborate on that powerful piece.
Right. Yeah, well, I wrote that poem maybe about 2 years ago. And how poems usually come to me is I'll hear a phrase or a word in the poem. And with this one, I just kept hearing, breh, crib, breh, crib. And I know that's the, it's like the calling signal for the Bloods and the Crips. So I was like, God, you trying to start something crazy. This is kind of controversial. Like I can't be doing no brat crib, And but I just felt it and I kept feeling it. And I'm just hearing about all this craziness going on in the streets with the gang violence and the gun violence and I just said, no, I'm gonna write this poem. So I started writing a poem, and the intent of the poem is to show to show us as a people that we have been freed of physical slavery.
Thank you.
But we are indeed still mental slaves.
Yes.
And we are mental slaves through gang violence, through gun violence, through the the ignorance of hip hop, certain hip hop songs, and